Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to part 2 of my 2021 Christmas special. If you haven't watched it already, part 1 was a quick look at progress that I've made in this last month. And now we're going to do a review of the whole year, a tour of the layout, and discuss some of my plans and aspirations for the year ahead. But before we get started, let's take a few moments to watch the local switcher pushing some cars around in Fairview Yard, just having some fun playing trains. Construction started in 2018 with just a small module that I built in my living room, and then about 18 months after that, so later in 2019, I was able to build a small hobby room actually in part of my garage outside the house effectively, and that's where the town and the railroad of Fairview have come to life. My layout is built in a hobby room which measures 14 feet long by 8 foot wide, and as you can see here from the track plan, it's a very simple loop, single track with one long passing siding in the town of Fairview, as well as some ancillary tracks for various industries. To the south, the left-hand end of the room is the suburb of Stanton and tracks that lead on to Denver, whilst to the right are the tracks which lead out north and then west, heading out and up towards Moffat Tunnel and the Rocky Mountains. The layout is built in HO scale, and I envisage it as being set in the period roughly between 2010 and 2015, 2016, something like that. All right, let's just take a moment while a Union Pacific empty coal train rolls into town. It's been called into the siding here at Fairview because the dispatchers have scheduled a meet here with the next Amtrak service coming through. So we'll just stop here a moment and wait for the California Zephyr and look back at some of the progress I've made on the layout over the last 12 months. We'll start our review of the year here at the southern end of the layout in the Stanton suburb of Fairview, where mostly things haven't changed in this past year. In the background there you can see Rocky Mountain Manufacturing, and I've added some ancillary buildings and put in a plaster parking lot there, so that area is now largely finished. And just panning around a little bit further, work on my ADM corn syrup processing plant has largely finished. The building's all in place, but I just have to do some more work on the gravel lot and the details which surround that area. So here comes that eastbound California Zephyr, bound for Denver. Let's just watch it for a few moments. There's no station at Fairview, so the Amtrak is just going to roll through town, and once that's safely out the way, we can shift our focus to have a look at progress at the other end of the model room. Looking at this image of the northern end of the layout a year ago, the transformation is pretty huge. I've put in all of the groundwork now, and if I pan the camera slowly from left to right, you'll see that most of the buildings are in place. I've got dirt roads, I've got grass areas down. In the background there, the motel is kit bashed from two of the Walthers motel kits to form a nice modern Motel 6 complex. And then over the course of last year, I developed all the high ground just coming into view now, the rocky formations, the grassy slopes, and of course my highway overpass, which has now been completed. Everything now bedding in together quite nicely, although the trees there in the background are just still temporary. So there's still plenty of work to do with detailing and some more work on the grassy areas and so on. But really this northern stretch of the layout, Fairview Heights, is looking more or less complete. Well, it looks like that coal train had to wait to switch out its crew, but everything's ready now for it to depart, so we'll just let this train get out of the way before we begin to look at the upper deck of the layout. So this has probably been the biggest transformation of all this year, because there wasn't an upper deck 12 months ago. But now, having put in a big effort over the summer, I finished all the bench work, laid down track temporarily at least, linking up some modules that I'd been building outside of the model room over the last 12 months. And I'm now able to run DC trains around this upper portion. So I've got no intention really of linking the two levels. I can leave DC trains bimbling around up there. I can try out various scenic techniques on different portions. The idea is that this upper deck really will be kind of a series of vignettes or dioramas rather than a continuous layout. But that's all to the good for the Canadian portion, the British Columbia portion of my layout. Now, in the last few months, the thing I've been focusing on more than anything else has been developing the concept behind Fairview and considering operations. I've done plenty of research into prototypical practices on the Union Pacific line coming up out of Denver and heading towards the Moffat Tunnel. Some really beautiful books with loads of lovely photographs and packed full of useful information. And I've been looking at some of the guidebooks out there to how you plan for operations on your layout. And as I've gone through all that work, I've started to develop the paperwork that I need to operate Fairview in 2022. This involves developing an operational plan for the services which will run through the layout in a nominal day. And combined with switch lists, allows me to come up with a nice little session to keep me happy playing my trains. And that paperwork then translates here on the layout into my operations cards. These give me a sequence of services that are going to run through the layout at any given time. And up here, looking now at my local switcher, the idea is that I can have a session where I'm shunting cars around with my switcher and then have to pause that operation while, in this case, a westbound empty Union Pacific coal train runs through the layout, and then once it's clear through Fairview, I'm able to go back to shunting my wagons around. I certainly haven't finished all this developmental work. You can see here on the session sheet that there's lots of annotations as I begin to change my mind and move things around. But I've certainly got enough here now to let me get on with operations in a much more meaningful way in 2022. So I'm happy with how far I've got with all of that, and I know that it gives me a good base for moving forward next year. Well, before we switch focus to look at my plans for the coming year, there's a BNSF hot intermodal going to hustle straight through town. So let's just sit back and enjoy watching this train passing through. All right, so having looked now at the progress I've made over the previous 12 months, let's turn our attention to plans for the coming year. I think really I'm looking at four main areas to focus in the next 12 months. One will be to finish off the area of Fairview Heights, particularly in the back left corner here where we still have buildings that need to be completed and levels of groundwork that need to be sorted. I now want to finish off the backdrops all the way around so that it's a nice coherent finished spread of skyline and town or mountainside scenery behind all of the model making. I've already talked about operations. I basically just want to get going now and start playing with the layout to the point where I can fine tune the operations. And then I'm also going to do more work on the upper deck, come up with at least a couple more modules, get all the temporary fixed track put down permanently so that I can run my Canadian locos up there much more reliably. Well, there we go. That was my roundup of progress made on my Fairview model railroad over the last 12 months, as well as some thoughts on the way that I want to develop things in the next year. I really hope you've enjoyed the images and the thoughts that I've shared with you in this video. If you're new to my videos, you might like to click the like button and maybe even subscribe to my channel so that you can get more updates as the year goes by. And as always, if you've got any comments or observations, I'd really appreciate it if you put them down below the video. I promise you I'll get back to you with my responses if you take the time to contact me. Thanks as always for your support in the past 12 months. It's been really great seeing more and more people coming along and enjoying my videos. I wish you a healthy and happy holiday period, and in particular that 2022 is a year where we might all begin to enjoy getting back to some kind of normality with the worst of the COVID we hope behind us by then. I'll leave you with some closing shots here of this Union Pacific westbound manifest freight train picking up the cars that the local switcher had set out earlier today. Thanks again for watching. Take care of yourselves in the coming year. Above all else, enjoy your model railroading, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks a lot, and bye for now.